Welcome to the Ohio Computer-Based Assessment Tutorials. This tutorial will focus on the end of course exam for American History at the high school level. We will start at the Ohio Computer-Based Assessment portal page, which is oh.portal.airast.org/OCBA. And once you get to that page, we will select Practice Test, and then we will sign in as a guest. For this one, we're going to select 9th, 10th, or 11th grade because they all have the same end of course exams there. You'll see it's American Government, American History, and Physical Science. All of those are on those grade levels. We will focus on American History end of year. There are two different practice tests that you can engage in. The PBA is the first assessment students will take around early March. The end of year will be towards the end of the year, early May. Both of those will be combined into one score, and that's what the student will receive credit for. The end of year we will focus on because there are similar types of questions in both of these. So this tutorial is mainly to familiarize students and teachers with the types of questions that students may encounter on these new computer-based assessments. But you'll notice that they are very similar. So we're going to go ahead and select the end of year. We'll keep the settings the same, confirm them, start the test, and then the first page is just an instruction sheet that kind of walks the students into the tools and the types of things that they'll encounter. So we will go ahead and begin the test. Now the end of year test is graded by the machine, or computer scored is what we call it. And so that for that reason, most of the questions are either multiple choice or can be scored relative to a right or wrong answers. There are a few short answer questions on the end of year, but there's more end of year or more short answer questions on the PBA. So as we go through this example, we're going to just kind of glance over the multiple choice because those are pretty traditional and most students and teachers understand what those involve. So again, you will see several multiple choice questions. We do have questions that are similar to OGT type questions where they have to look at some information or text or a document or a source and then answer the question based on that. So here's the first example of a question that's a little different than the typical OGT type of traditional question. You'll notice it's still a multiple choice question over here, but we have a lot of things going on the left side, and this is something that students really have to understand and learn how to navigate because this is where a lot of the information is housed. So you'll see that they have a little bit of text here explaining what the question is and how to navigate it. But here we have a drop down menu that allows students to view 6 sources, and they need to view these sources, and they display the source, and then they can go down here to read the source. They do have to scroll, so that's another navigation piece that students have to kind of get familiar with when they see these types of questions. But as they change the sources, the different sources come up down at the bottom. So students really need to understand how to navigate and find these sources and display them so that they can use that information to answer the questions that they have on the right side. And then there's usually several questions over that same information. Now this question over here is a little different in itself because it's not a multiple choice question. It's a technology enhanced question where the students have to look at the sources that they were looking at on the left side and then click on 3 thesis statements that go along with the sources that they read. So now they're going to have to scroll to get to them, but they're going to click 3 of them. It will not allow them to click more than 3. If they don't want that one, they can then click it and then go to the other one. So this is a different type of question than what students probably have seen on other assessments. Multiple choice. Here's another new type of question that students really need to be familiar with, because this, even though it looks like a multiple choice question, the question actually asks them to select all of the factors that enabled racism to become institutionalized. So it doesn't even tell them how many, it says all. So students really have to have a pretty solid understanding of the concept of racism in the United States during the Reconstruction period to give the 3 or the 4 or whatever the factors are that they have to select. So this is a different type of question than what they probably have encountered. A two-part multiple choice question, pretty straightforward. Here's a drag and drop. So they have to take these boxes and drag them to where they believe they fit. So these things led to the Great Depression, and that resulted in this. And obviously I'm not answering these correctly because I'm just demonstrating, but they can move them back and forth and put them in different places until they are happy with what their final answer is. But another example of a question that's a little different than the traditional question that students probably have seen on paper pencil tests. Here's an example of a short answer that's very similar to any other short answer that they can just type with their keyboard their answer based on the question. Here's another new technology enhanced question. It's kind of a hotspot question where there are things here that when you mouse over it, it highlights something that you can click on. And this asks them to identify 2 contested areas in which the U.S. fought wars during the Cold War era. So they would find where they believe they need to click, and again they can only click 2, but they can unclick it and click whatever they would like to select, and then their answer is based on their selected response. So another example of a technology enhanced question that students need to be familiar with. Another short answer, multiple choice. Here's another drag and drop. It's a 2-part drag and drop. Students need to really read the question carefully to understand what they're being asked to do, and then they will drag the pieces to the correct boxes. So students really need a depth of understanding to be able to do some of the tasks that they're going to be asked to do on these new computer assist types of questions. So that brings us to the end of the test. I click OK. We end the test, and what they should see is a breakdown of all the questions, and if they did not answer any of them, they will get this little explanation point, and that allows them to click on it and go back and view it and answer it. Once they're finished and they have all of those completed, and that's something that the teachers, when they proctor the test, need to make sure that students do have everything answered the way they want it, because as soon as that submit test button is clicked with the confirmation, they cannot go back and change anything. So it's important that all of the questions are answered completely before they click that yes button. So now it's a matter of logging out and they are done. So that is the tutorial for the American History End of Year assessment for the computer-based portal and assessment program for Ohio. We will have other assessment tutorials for the different end of course exams, as well as the science and social studies assessments on our YouTube channel. Thanks.